Welcome to Forthright, the podcast with, for and by women writers.
We have some brilliant guest writers lined up for you this season, covering a wide range of genres and experience.
We hope you enjoy it. Hi, and welcome to the Forthright podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Sam, and today we're absolutely delighted to have Kate Morrison with us. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
So, Kate's debut historical novel, A Book of Secrets, was published in 2019 by Jacaranda Books and longlisted for the Historical Writers Association Debut Crown Awards and the Diverse Book Awards 2020. She's taught historical fiction writing courses and workshops for the British Library and Writing Around the Kids, and has also run kids' creative writing workshops for Little Green Pig. She's currently writing 2 novels at once, very slowly.
And today we are delighted that Kate is going to read an extract from the Book of Secrets, so I'll just read the blurb. So, A Book of Secrets tells the story of Suzanne Charleswood, a girl from the 16th century Ghana who was stolen from her family by slavers and brought to England as a baby. She grows up to marry a Catholic printer and finds herself hunting for a lost brother through an Elizabethan underworld of spies, plots and secret Catholic printing presses. Yay! So over to you, Kate, and maybe if you could just say at what point in the book this is from, so for our listeners, they kind of got a bit of context.
Sure. Okay, so this is actually from chapter 1, so it's kind of the very beginning of the book.
Brilliant.
And at this point, Susan is sitting in the print room and thinking about her life. So, chapter 1 of A Book of Secrets. I have a riddle in my hands that can kill a man. It may kill John Roberdine, who was once my lover and is now my enemy. If I tell the right person the meaning of this riddle, men will ride up to Roberdine's house and drag him away from it. His lands will be seized, his treasure forfeit. They will take him over the bad Sussex roads, through the weald and clay and the woods where the iron forges smoulder in the night, all the way to London. He will ride in under the Traitor's Gate on Southwark Bridge, and they will take him to a traitor's room in the Tower. There he will stay till they take him out to hang. We made that journey to London together once, when he was a sunburned apprentice with a salt voice and sea-green eyes, and I was a little maid whose life and family had been swallowed up by a thunderclap. Who am I now? Can I condemn him to death? The paper that may hang him has only a few words written on it. 10 culver, 10 robin, 15 a bird. Innocent enough, seemingly. 10 doves, 10 robins at a certain price. But Roberdine is no bird catcher. He trades now in larger prey. I have been sitting in the empty print room since sundown, burning precious candles, trying to dig wisdom from the thickest part of the night. Little flickers of reflected flame spark out from the cases of type, as all the letters sit in their allotted ranks, waiting to be formed into any words I choose. I could pick out a T now, with my eyes closed. I know the place of every letter, comma, and stop by heart. The bronze heirlooms my mother brought from Africa lie on the table before me, stamped with her own secret language. I turn the little bird figurine over and over in my hand, trying to read deeper than words. I hold it up to the light, and its eye squints gold in the candle flame. Go back and fetch what you forgot, it says. Look over your shoulder and learn what the past has to teach you, so you can decide where to walk next. Can the past help me solve this riddle? Since I was born, other people had given me names and told me who and what I am. I don't remember my father or my mother, and I knew almost nothing about the land of my birth when I was growing up. That has left me with a strange weightlessness, like the swifts that stay on the wing their whole lives. I think of my son, who will know his place in the world. I imagine him in the future, a tall, curly-headed gentleman, reading aloud to his wife in a wood-panelled room, large and fine. I know this room. I can picture it exactly. One wall is full of his books, and the others beautifully carved with birds and scrolls. His head will be a store of knowledge, and his house will be a store of good things. He will lack for nothing. Upstairs, a nurse will rock his own son to sleep. I can make that future real for him if I break this cipher. I have had enough of people telling me who I am. I have had enough of the names they give me. I will do it. I will look over my shoulder. I will go back and fetch it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And yes, it's just such extraordinary imagery as well. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
So I guess the first question is, tell us what the inspiration was for A Book of Secrets. How did you come about telling this story?
So I knew that I wanted to write a book set in sort of the Renaissance or the Elizabethan period because I really enjoyed studying that period at university. I did English literature and I loved the writing from that time. I love the kind of imagery they use. I love the excitement of the language. It's a very kind of rich and exciting time for language. So I just wanted to write something set in that time and set in London, sort of in the underworld, because that was a very, it's full of characters and kind of danger and peril and adventure. And then when I graduated from university, I was living in London and our downstairs neighbour was a Nigerian actor. And we used to chat and I told him I was writing this book set in Elizabethan London. And he said, if you're writing historical fiction, could you please put some black people in it? Because black people have been in England for thousands of years, at least since Roman times. And yet you so rarely see a black person in historical fiction or historical drama. Now, this was about 20 years ago now. It's 2002, but more than 20 years. And representation has improved somewhat on screen and in books, I think, but not enough. But at the time, it was really poor. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that there were black people in England in Elizabethan times at that point. And so I thought, okay, yeah, let's have a black character in here. And I sort of started researching, and it took a long time to research. I think this is pre-internet as well. So the information that was available was in libraries and on paper. And so actually it wasn't really until more of this information came into the digital realm that I was able to research things better.
Gosh, you were researching pre and post-internet then. That's interesting, an interesting process.
Yeah, well, it took me a really long time to write it. I think it was kind of on and off project for a number of years because I didn't know how to write a novel. That was a bit of a problem. I realised I was only 21 and I think I didn't know how to write a novel and I didn't really know how to ask anyone to tell me.
Yeah.
And just the sort of research in general and for historical fiction was taking a long time. And I think I picked it back up properly in about 2010, 2011, post-internet, when a lot more information was available. And I got linked up with Miranda Kaufman, who wrote Black Tudors, which is obviously kind of non-fiction, following the lives of a number of Africans who were present in Elizabethan England. So I was talking to her while she was conducting that research, and another PhD student called Onyeka Nubia has also written a book about Black Tudors. So there was suddenly a few people kind of writing about this and building on the work of earlier historians as well, who had previously done work on this. So it's quite it's been kind of gradually coming to the surface over a number of years.
Gosh, it's a real labour of love, isn't it? Yeah,
I think it's with a lot of books that take people a long time to write. You kind of have an idea and you can't quite let go of it.
Yeah.
So even if it, you might drop it and pick it up again, but you sort of can't let go of the characters. You can't let go of the story. So you just kind of keep going, even if it's in a bit of a long drawn out process.
And so did you go on?
I was just going to say, did you feel a bit? I'm just thinking of like that with being with that character for a really long time. Did you feel quite like a sense of grief when you got to the end? If you had been kind of living alongside your characters for a number of years, was it a strange thing to come to the end, or was there a real sense of relief?
I think I was really relieved because it had been such a long time, and so many times I thought I was never ever going to finish it. I was never going to finish it. It was never going to get published. Like, it was never going to sort of see the light of day. So no, by the time I did the final draft and it was published, I was just so glad that I didn't have to do any more editing or think about it anymore.
Yeah.
That it was a relief, and I kind of, I don't know, I don't think I've let go of the characters completely, because they're still doing whatever they're doing in their world. Like, I don't have to think about them, but I know there. And maybe that's because it's historical fiction as well. Like when I think about that setting now, when I think about Elizabethan London, the people that I made up are there, as well as all the people that I know actually existed who are also in the book, which might sound a bit odd, but yeah.
And were you working on other things during that time as well, or was kind of all of your writing for A Book of Secrets?
No, I wrote quite a few different things. I think, again, because I was kind of picking it up and putting it down again. So I wrote, and I'd never finished. I think, again, this is quite common for writers when you're starting out. I was scared of showing my work to people, and I found it really hard to finish things.
Yeah.
And I was always like, I've just got to finish something, so I know that I can finish it, and I've got to show it to other people. So that was kind of a challenge. And I wrote a ghost story and sent it off to the Asham Award, which now doesn't function anymore, but it was a prize for women writers, and it's based in Sussex actually. So I had the award ceremony at Charleston. So I finished the story, I sent it in, and it got second place.
Oh, wonderful.
So that was kind of like, okay, I know I can finish something. I know that people might want to publish it. I know I can do it. If I keep going, if I just keep writing, then I can get to the end. And I think that was quite a major thing. And I also found a writers group in Bristol. Well, we'd moved to by that point. And so I was then getting a bit less shy about putting my work out to other people and then seeing it and giving feedback on it. And I think that was really important.
I think being part of a writers group is almost an essential, really, in some ways, of that, having that supportive group of people who really understand what it is that you're doing and aren't going to tell you it's good because they love you, but also will kind of offer critical feedback. How did you find your writers group then? And were there other historical fiction writers there as well, or were you the only one? Do you all come from different genres?
I think at that point I was only historical fiction. So it was actually, I worked at an organisation in Bristol called the Federation of City Farms and Community Gardens. Which sort of kind of does what it says on the tin. And my boss, Ken, was also a writer. So he writes mainly short stories and flash fiction. And he's very good. And he's very very good at teaching as well. But he was in this writing group and he said, oh, do you want to come along and join in? And then we gradually gathered a few more people. I think when I left Bristol and I couldn't go to meetings in person anymore, I signed up 2 of my friends. I was like, I'm going, you can have these 2 instead. And then, of course, it was COVID and everything went online. And so now we still meet every 2 weeks.
Oh, lovely.
So it's all different genres. But yeah, I think the most important thing is that everyone is very honest. So you will get, and we also trust each other. Yeah. So you'll get good feedback. It might not be the feedback you want to hear, but it's going to be useful. And no one's just going to be like, oh, that was lovely. It flowed so nice. They'll tell you what's technically wrong with it, what needs changing. And you know that they're good at what they do. So you trust what they say. And so it's a good mix of people and voices.
And so I'm also someone who kind of says that I'm writing very slowly, and that can, for me, that kind of can mean that I don't look at it for months on end, but I'm still thinking about it. I just sort of wondered what that process looks like for you. And you said you're writing 2 things as well. So how does that balance between projects?
Oh, yeah. I think the slowness is partly just life, because again, as with many other writers, I also have a part-time job and I have children, and so the writing sort of fits around that, and often it just doesn't fit at all. So I'm thinking about it while I'm doing other things, and then if I get a chance to sit down, I write it out. And I think I found that I quite like working on different things at the same time, because if I get bored with one, or if one of them feels a bit stale, then I can go to the other one. So I was actually, the first thing I started working was something set in the Bronze Age, so about 600 BC. So I went kind of right back in time, and I did a first draft of that, and then I just couldn't bear looking at it anymore. So I put that in a drawer for a bit, and then I'm writing something sort of set in the 90s, which is the most recent thing I think I've written, and which is so much easier because I don't have to check everything all the time because I was alive in the 90s. And
how is it writing something that's kind of in your own lived memory then, from like that kind, I think... is there a very different process? I know, aside from obviously the research, but to think yourself into those spaces, is there something that you have to do to to see yourself in kind of different kind of historical places in time.
Yeah, I think definitely writing set in something in lived memory is so much easier. It's so much because I don't have to check things all the time. I have to check some things, like, when you're not quite sure when people started using mobile phones, and you have to go and look that up. But it's not the same as trying to find some really obscure information about, like, a printer who was doing secret printing in 16th century London, when you have to go off to an archive or trawl through journals on the internet. It's very readily available, and even the experiences are experiences that I've lived. I'm not trying to imagine, like, a Bronze Age farmer and what the seasons of the year look like. So it's so much easier and so much quicker, and it's really nice.
With the research as well, do you, especially if you're kind of things like with the 90s, we can kind of all like think ourselves back into being into that era. But when you're like very deep in your research of something that's happened a long time ago, when you get to that point where you've edited and you think, it might be ready to go, do you ever get nervous that there might be, I don't know, like a Bronze Age expert who's going to read your book and say, well, actually, Kate, I think you'll find that, blah, blah, blah. Is there a kind of another tier of nervousness with writing if you're setting it in a different time period?
I think definitely, yes, definitely, because the thing is, you can't know everything. But also you've got to be able to let that go. So I think it was probably even harder for 16th century because there's a lot known about that. With the Bronze Age, so much of it is archaeological. There's no written evidence from the region that I was looking at, which was the UK and Ireland. It's all archaeological. And an archaeologist I spoke to, archaeologists said, we argue about this stuff and what it means. They can't always agree. So, it's a bit more freedom to make stuff up. So with the 16th century, you get really paranoid that someone's going to come and tell you that people didn't use forks until 20 years later than you said, and therefore your whole book is rubbish. But you have to be able to just put it down, because actually what matters is the story and the characters. Yeah. And if you're worrying too much about kind of the brickwork, like the facts, then it gets very dry and it can't live and it can't fly. Yeah. And, it's not historical. I think Hilary Mantel says something about it, which I can't remember because my memory is terrible, but about, you're not trying to be an inferior historian. You're doing something different. You're kind of breathing life into characters. And there's no way that it can all be factual and it can all be known and it can all be true. But it's got to be kind of true to the sense of it, as much as you can be.
Because I guess also kind of like historical factual books are also written by human beings and prone to error or interpretation or opinion. So, yeah. And
can be revised. People uncover new evidence about things all the time that changes what they thought they knew previously. So you kind of have to take a guess at. Like, there's no... I was writing about women printers and widows, and there were a lot of widows in London running their sort of husbands' businesses. Like when a printer died, his wife could take over if she didn't marry again. If she married again, then the next husband kind of took it over. But until that point, she could run it on her own. So there were definitely, I know that there were women running printing businesses in Elizabeth and London, but what that exactly entails, I wouldn't know how involved they'd be in the technical aspects. Like, could they actually put together a galley? Did they know the technical details of what they were doing, or were they more kind of like just making sure that the workmen did what they were meant to do at that time? So kind of using guesswork to build up a picture and taking a bit of a leap of faith.
Oh, it's just, it's kind of real, I think, like wormhole territory when you with aspects of research like that, and it can kind of turn out being a bit chicken and egg, that you're like, oh, I need to research this particular aspect, and then you've lost all your writing time because you've been following that wormhole,
following a rabbit hole.
Oh, brilliant. And so for the 90s, I guess that we've said already that looks quite different. Is that kind of, you've got similar themes that with the Book of Secret?
I think a lot of my writing is about women, and it sounds really obvious and kind of, of course, I am a woman and I'm interested in how women exist in the world and the different challenges that women have faced. in different historical periods. So, and even in this one that's set in the 90s, there is a link to the past as well, because I'm sort of writing it set in a place that has a historical background as well, and it's linked through music. So I think I'm interested in women's lives and how they are shaped within the restrictions placed on them, and I'm interested in how what people's lives were like in the past and how that carries through to the present within the legacies of the past. And with Book of Secrets, it's very much looking at kind of the start of what was the sort of British slave trade and the legacies of colonialism and empire that are still with us now in very active negative ways. So history is not history. There are these links, there are these threads that reach through into the present, and so I'm interested in investigating how those work, what those look like, and that connection with the past from where we are now.
And with the practical kind of part of being a woman and trying to balance like all the challenge that we have in a day-to-day, you've talked about working part-time, like having maybe multiple different writing projects on at the same time, having a young family, and slotting the writing around, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But maybe on a typical writing day for you, what would that look like, if there is such a thing? I mean, like, what part of the day do you find most productive to write, and what would you consider to be success? Is it word count? Is it kind of what does all look like for you?
So I say I don't have any proper kind of writing routine, because I can't make myself get up early in the morning. Like I'm up at sort of 6:30 anyway, because that's when the kids
I think that's
awake.
early enough, to be honest.
Yeah, I've tried it. I have tried getting up at like 5 and doing them, but I'm just not a morning person. And so I don't do that. And then in the evenings, I think physically, because I've either done a full day's work or I've done a part day's work, but going back on the laptop it's really tiring.
Yeah.
So I find actually that writing on pen and paper works quite well for me. So quite often I can sit in bed and do a bit of writing, or sit on the sofa and do a little bit, and then when I've got a bigger chunk of time, I'll type it up.
Yeah.
So I think I would be faster at writing, and probably better if I had proper goals and I managed to meet them, like word counts or pages written and stuff. But at the moment, I guess I do have a goal, which is I'm trying to write 3 chapters and a synopsis to send to my agent.
Yeah.
And then if she likes it, then I will write some more. But I don't have any kind of typical writing day. I'm thinking about it when I'm doing the washing up, and then maybe I text myself on my phone. So if I think about something while I'm doing the washing up, then when I finish, I text myself like some words, and then maybe a bit later I write those down in a notebook. And then on a Friday, which is supposed to be my day off writing day, I will type some of those out, and then gradually it sort of takes shape. But
so if you're writing things and then transcribing them afterwards, is that like almost a first step of editing, or do you kind of type out in verbatim whatever you've written in pencil or pen?
I think there is a bit of editing that goes on that can be quite useful. So you've kind of got the 3 stages almost, like you have the thought, and then it's on paper in scribbly form, and then when you type it up, you take out some of it that don't work. So yeah, there's a bit of editing that goes on there already. And what I'm finding interesting with this book, actually, the 90s one, is that previously I have been completely pretty much a pantser. So I kind of know what the beginning of the book is, and I know where I want to get to at the end, and I can't really plan what happens in the middle. I just have to sort of start off and let the characters get going and talk to each other, and then follow what they're doing. I sort of have an idea of what I want to happen, but I can't plan it. But with this one, I've actually written a whole outline, and I'm doing it chapter by chapter.
How does that feel as a comparison to how you've worked previously?
Yeah, it's really different. I don't really know why it is. I don't know if it's because I'm trying to be more strategic with my time, because I don't have any time. So it's just like, well, I have to sort of know where it's going, and maybe it'll be easier if I can do it like that.
Interestingly, I have always been somebody who's planned, and then this book that I'm writing at the moment, I started it, I don't really know where it's going, and I wrote the end the other day and thought like, oh, that was a bit of a surprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did not see that coming. So, yes.
And do you think is that working well for you, the sort of not knowing what's happening, or are you finding it a bit scary?
I think it's interesting. So I think it's more energized maybe because there's a kind of spontaneity in terms of the writing. But I would say also it's probably a lot more labour intensive because I've already gone up to like 70,000 words and it's come back down to 50,000. It'll probably do that a few times until it settles into a book. So I don't think it's very kind of word economical. But no, it's interesting trying both ways, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I'm hoping that it will make it quicker.
Yeah.
And also different... like a different process can work for different stories, can't it? I think that there's not... I think that every writer probably has their own way of doing it, but even within that, it can change from book to book. And like you say, depending on kind of what other life stuff is happening and and so on. I've tried to have an outline and then it just completely changes and then I'm like, well, why did I do the outline in the first place? It changes a bit. So are you a reader of historical fiction as well?
Yeah, I do love a bit of historical fiction. I love Hilary Mantel. I really enjoy Maggie O'Farrell's historical books, so Hamlet and the Marriage Portrait. I think even when I was younger, like I loved Mary Renault's books, a kind of about Alexander the Great, those kind of trilogy of books. I like work where it really makes you feel like you're there, and often when the writers don't try too hard to make the writing feel sort of ye olde, where it's not a bit, it can be a bit effortful if you're chucking in lots of historical phrases and trying to make people sound historical. I think that can get a bit over-egged. So I like it whether it's quite plain writing, but it's really evocative, where you kind of get the sense of where it is. So I do like a bit of historical fiction.
I'm just thinking we're kind of coming to the end. This is going to ever so quickly. I wondered for our listeners who are writers themselves, maybe at the start of where they are, what kind of advice would you give them, or what advice would you give to yourself when you first started out on this path to becoming a writer?
So I think a really good thing to have is a community of other writers around you, and that could be trying to find a writing group. I think that's really good if you can find a group of other writers that you trust who are going to kind of be there for you and give feedback. And what that also does is it kind of takes the pressure off you to succeed. I think it's because what's really nice about having friends who are writers is you're happy when they do well. And so if you're having a horrible time and nothing is working and you're miserable, but one of your friends is doing well, then it actually is really nice. And of course, it can be difficult comparing yourself to other people. So, social media is not very helpful with that, which can plunge you into a pit of despair. But I think having friends who are writers is really good. And you can find that community on social media as well. You might have to be careful how you consume it. But I found on Twitter, despite the bin fire that it has become, that I did build a really nice community of people, again, that I could feel happy when they succeeded, and you sort of follow their journeys and enjoy their success. And I think the other key thing is it's just not giving up. And that is really the only thing. You may have a routine, you may not have a routine. It may take you 20 years to write the book. It may take you 5 years. If you don't give up, then you will get there. And often it will feel like there's just nothing left in you, and you are never going to finish the book, and you don't know where it's going to go next, and everything you write is rubbish. And you will feel like that, and then you just have to keep going. And that is all you have to do. And it's really hard, and it's really simple. And whatever it takes to sort of kickstart you to do that. And sometimes you need to stop and you need to go for a walk or do something else creative. And sometimes you need to put the work aside for a bit and come back to it. But just don't give up, and keep going, and enjoy your writer friends, and hone your craft. And I think especially at the moment it can be very depressing looking at the state that publishing's in, and the fact that it's very hard to earn a living from writing. So I think you have to kind of set realistic expectations of yourself, maybe even more than in the past, that you're not necessarily going to earn a full-time living from writing ever, and that is okay, because you can find writing related things like teaching, or even your regular job that you do already, and you can write alongside them. It's different now from how it was a few years ago, I think, for writers. But if you love writing and you have that excitement when you're getting words on the page and putting things together, then it can be a strand of your life, even if it's not everything. You know, I think there's the thing like artists have to be consumed by their art and all they do every hour of the day, and you're not a proper artist unless you do that. And that's not true. You can be an artist and it can fit into the other aspects of your life, and you can be just as serious about it as someone who spends their whole time sitting at their fancy desk, you know, on writing on their perfect moleskin notebook and winning book prizes.
So absolute gems in there. So yeah, get your writing crew around you and just keep going, be resilient. And brilliant. So yeah, I can't believe that's the end already. If our listeners wanted to find you, are you around on social media and so on?
Yeah, so I'm still on Twitter, Kate C. Morrison, C for Campbell. My account is private, but if you request to follow me on there, and I'm on Threads as Kate C. Morrie. So I'm on both those things and Instagram as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's like I've kind of whittled on and I don't know if I've said anything useful. But thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been great.
Oh, we loved it. Thanks, Kate.
You've been listening to the Forthright podcast.
Check out our website, forthright.uk, for further writing resources and tips.
We hope you're enjoying listening along to all the chats that we have with our fabulous author guests. If you are enjoying it, please, please, please give us 5 stars and leave a review to help us reach more people.
And if you're not enjoying them, then please just don't bother. Thanks very much. Bye.